It is Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. This is another edition of Baseball Today. That is my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan, intern Sawyer along for the ride as well. A lot of stuff to get through on this hump day. And let's start with a tip of the cap to an NFL team, the Seattle Seahawks. They went out to the home of the Mariners during one of their offseason team activities, and they went out, did a little BP, took some grounders, chased some fly ball. There's your guy, Cooper Kupp. Nice swing. That's Gray Zabel, their first-round pick. The helmet barely fits on his head. I got to be honest with you. There were a couple of decent swings out there, including their coach, Mike McDonald, who it looks like he parked one.
You know, I actually watched this video with another prominent NFL player last night. We were talking about the swings. They look okay, but when you really dive into it, a lot of disconnection between the legs and the upper body. That's where you're not going to get the power from that. So I'm happy. It looked better than a lot of videos. I think basketball players are maybe the worst looking baseball players.
Yes.
So these guys, they did okay.
There was something funny. This was over 30 years ago. The All-Star game was at Camden Yards, so this must have been 93, I'm going to say. And there was video of Patrick Ewing, the great NBA center for the New York Knicks, taking batting practice. It looked like it was the first time he was ever holding a baseball bat. Amazing. We got to find that video. That
Giannis has a bad video too, I believe, in Yankee Stadium somewhere, right?
Right. But you have to remember, like, Giannis and Patrick Ewing, they weren't born here.
That's
neither
true.
of them. So we can understand that.
Baseball players, we're good at everything.
Mm-hmm. Hey, go listen to A.J. Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles, your Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, former draft pick of the Padres. He'll tell you how tough this sport is. He loves it still. Loves it. All right, let's get to it. Red Sox have taken the first two of the series with the Mets. Bullpen crushed it, getting 20 of the 27 outs in a 2-0 win. Had to do that because they lost their starter, Walker Buehler, who was just coming off the injured list, was actually looking okay, getting into the third. And then we had some issues. That should have been a called strike on Juan Soto. Catcher kind of stood up, might have blocked Mike Easterbrook, the umpire. So Walker Buehler looks in, and he's like, that was a strike. And he goes, no, it's 2-0. He's like, what? And then Eastbrook comes out in front of the plate, takes his mask off, starts saying, hey, stay on the mound. Don't yell at me and stay on your mound. And he starts yelling at him, and they go back and forth. Nope, you're out of here. And Buehler said some stuff, and he goes. He gets ejected. And Alex Cora, he eventually gets run as well. Here's the skipper and his starting pitcher.
I mean, I've been doing this for a few years, like I was just begging, give me a break, like I'll go out and you can throw me out. We'll keep the pitcher in the game, but I guess he had enough. I don't know why.
I'm not going to talk about what he did or didn't do. I don't think it's my place. Obviously, those guys don't get interviewed, and we do, so I'm not going to talk on his side of it. Obviously, for me, it kind of spiraled a little bit, and I said some things that he thought I shouldn't have said and whatnot. So, at the end of the day, putting our team in a position like that is the only thing I really regret about that situation.
Well, Walker Buehler is right from this standpoint. Mike Eastbrook did not speak with the media. His crew chief, Laz Diaz, did to a pool reporter. And here's the tweet. He can say stuff from the mound, but once he comes off the mound, he's leaving his position to argue balls and strikes. Once anyone leaves their position to argue balls and strikes, that is an immediate ejection. Are you buying this explanation or no?
I think everything that was said is true. I think Walker did a really good job right there of saying, I probably shouldn't have said a few things, but I also feel like Mike Easterbrook baited him a little bit. He was saying, stay on the mound, don't say anything, when Walker Buehler was on the mound and he was charging towards the mound. So it was a little bit of a bait situation there. And then the whole aspect of you can't argue balls and strikes. Why not? Why not? When did we become like this? We can't challenge them. Why can't we argue and say, hey, that's wrong? What's the point of that? And again, I'll continue to say this because it's true. Those confrontations are some of the most entertaining spots in a baseball game. The crowd loves them. So why are we trying to get away from that? I don't understand it. I think Walker should have done a better job of checking his emotions. When you're the starting pitcher, I think he had a good grasp on. He's like, the guys had to pick me up. That's horrible for your bullpen. And you know what? Somebody might be sent out because of that, right? Like that's kind of how it happens when you have to cover a bunch of innings. Now they have to get fresh bullpen arms. Somebody might get sent down. I don't know if it's happened yet or if it's going to happen, but that is the case in a lot of these instances. So I think Walker did need to check his emotions a little bit more there. But I think Esterbrook escalated the situation right there, man. I did not like what I saw. And then here's the other thought, Chris. I got a lot of thoughts on this. Alex Cora should have got out there faster. Where were you? Was he talking to his other coaches? As soon as Walker starts chirping at the umpire, you get your butt out there. It took too long for him. He waited until he was thrown out.
Okay, so Alex Cora did say this in his post-game press conference. Because there was a play at second base, he had his head turned.
He was looking to see the challenge. Okay.
Exactly. So he said, by the time I turned back, he was basically already gone. So I do understand that.
Okay, that's fine. I take that back then.
Yeah. Here is the problem. You can see clearly Eastbrook is walking toward Buehler and taking his mask off. That is elevating this to an entirely different level. And Walker Buehler, to his credit in the post-game press conference, wouldn't accept the bait. He was like, well, what do you think about him taking his mask off? He's like, guys, I'm not going to answer that. It's that simple. I do think the league needs to take a stronger stance. And for decades and decades, for whatever reason, they have been so hesitant to blast their umpires when they're in the wrong. And this is a specific incident where you mention it. You're talking about maybe putting players' health at risk because ejecting a starting pitcher and having to cover 2/3 of the outs. It's just wrong. He was wrong in escalating the situation, and it could have affected the game, the outcome. It did not because Boston's bullpen was awesome. But there was just it doesn't feel right. When you watch the whole clip, whether you're a Mets fan, a Red Sox fan, or just a baseball fan, it's not going to sit well. And I know that we tend to pick on umpires. We don't like umpires. We don't like the calls they made. I think if Mike had this one to do over again and he watched the video, I don't think he'd be real proud of it.
It's also Walker Buehler. Like this is not some rookie out there. Like that does matter whether you think it should or not. It does matter, and usually that is the case. Where guys like a Walker Buehler, who's been in the game for quite some time, will get some leeway. He obviously didn't get any last night. I guess here's my question, and you guys leave a comment. People listening and watching right now, like, do you enjoy like a manager umpire discussion and argument? Like I think everyone does. So like, why are we trying to get that out of the game? Chris, we are an entertainment business.
Okay.
Like, why are we trying to get that out? I sort of understand you can't argue once a challenge is done and the verdict is in, you can't argue that because the umpires on the field have nothing to do with that. I understand that. I still think it should be okay to have them come and argue. Why not? Like that is, it's a fun part of the game for the fans. So why are we getting rid of that? I don't get it. To protect the umpire's ego, who cares?
Would you have been okay if Easterbrook had come out and taken his mask off and they were yelling back and he just stayed in the game? I mean, where do we draw the line? As a guy, you never got ejected from a game.
No, I think I did, but it was like after the game.
That's weird.
Eric
anyway,
got me, yeah.
So where do we draw the line? We can't just have baseball players verbally abusing umpires left and right.
It wouldn't come to that, Chris. It doesn't come to that. In fact, because you have to, the umpires have so much, they got a lot to do with how the game goes. So you want to be friends with umpires. You want to get the benefit of the doubt in the call, or at least you don't want to be on their bad side. So like, I don't think it would ever come to that. Like, I think baseball players are level-headed enough, most of them, to understand it's a 162 game season. You're going to see these guys throughout the year. They rotate. So, it wouldn't come to that where it's just straight up arguing all the time. But I don't think we should be getting that out of the game. I don't.
No, I don't either. I do think that there's a line that needs to be drawn and made sure that we don't cross it too frequently. There's two other points I want to get through. One was part of the reason that Buehler was so upset wasn't just the obvious missed strike call on Soto, but it was the at-bat before where Lindor got hit in the foot, and some people feel like he kind of leaned his leg in, and didn't exactly do the greatest job of getting out of the way. So Buehler was a little ticked off about this. And then Lindor is on second base when Buehler's arguing, and he's like, throw his ass out. Or I'm not Jimmy O'Brien, so I can't do the lip reading, but it certainly looks like that. You have a problem with what Francisco's doing here?
No, I don't. Of course, he wants the starter out to get to the bullpen and waste all their pitching. Like that's just competitiveness right there. And I don't think he leaned into that pitch. He stood his ground. What are you supposed to do? Like,
I don't know.
Part of the game.
You tell me. You're the batter.
You don't have to try to get out of the way of the ball. If you stand your ground, that's all you have to do.
Well, I think some people felt like he leaned his front leg. I couldn't tell on that.
Didn't hit his front leg. It his back leg.
I know it did hit his back leg, but see, look, he kind of tried to put his knee into it. Wouldn't you agree?
It's kind of like he's turning his butt to it a little bit. I don't know, man. I don't have a problem with that at all. And if you do, that's crazy.
All right. You don't have a problem with it. One other thing. Alex Cora, this was a second straight game that he didn't really see because on Sunday, his daughter graduated from Boston College. Congratulations to her. I think the ceremony was at 10 a.m. and he missed the game. And there are some media members, I don't want to say a ton, but there are some in Boston that question Cora's leadership. That this is a question of being a leader, and he should have shown up for his team and should have been there because the graduation was in the city of Boston. It wasn't somewhere else where he had to get on a plane and couldn't make it back in time. Do you agree with that?
No.
I don't either.
Mike, it's one day.
And yeah, he's going to be a father a lot longer than he's going to be the manager of the Boston Red Sox.
Who has a problem with that? Are you kidding me?
I
will say this. Alex Cora, I just talked about this on Talking Base. We're talking about the Red Sox, how they've underachieved this season. Again, Chris, they haven't had a winning season since 2021. Alex Cora is supposed to be one of the better managers in the game. What's he done? Right? So to my point that I always come up with, like managers don't really, like the influence on the game is not as much as we like to make it.
Yeah, I haven't checked where his contractual status is, but I think that if they, because you and I both feel like, I think you have them winning the East and I have them as a wild card.
I haven't gone to the World Series.
Well, there you go. If they do come up short this year, I think that they're going to look everywhere in terms of why they've come up short.
Well, more blown saves than they have saves. They have 11 blown saves right now.
It's a lot.
I guess they have 10 saves, I think it is. I don't know. Whatever it is, they have 11 blown saves, and their starting pitching has been absolutely atrocious.
All right, let's move on to the National League West. It continues to be a wild, wild division. The Giants end up hanging on, get some great relief work, and they beat the Kansas City Royals. The Padres continue to struggle. They were swept at home, by the Seattle Mariners. Now they go north of the border, and the Toronto Blue Jays are taking care of them. They get shut out. And the Dodgers, they win a roller coaster ride against the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Muncy hits it in the air to center field. Doesn't matter if it's gone. It's caught in center. Shohei tags. He comes home, and now we go home.
For those of you that didn't stay up late to go see that game, really, really fun game. Diamondbacks were down 1-0. Yamamoto was spectacular in his 7 innings of work, pitching shutout ball. Arizona ties it in the 9th on a home run, takes the lead on a Corbin Carroll 2-run shot off of Tanner Scott in extras. Tommy Edman with a great 2-strike approach to get on base to make it 3-2. Eventually, the Dodgers tie it. They load the bases, and Muncy hits the sac fly here. But if you're looking big picture here at the overall standings, only 4 games separate the first place Dodgers from the 4th place Diamondbacks. We've talked a lot about the competition in this division. Do you see all 4 teams staying in this thing till like mid-September?
Like as far as like playoff spots?
Let's just say the division. Let's make it fun.
I do. Each of these teams like has their flaws right now. We think of this division as like a juggernaut division. They have obviously done a nice job to start the season, but we know about the D-backs bullpen, the games that they've played. They've blown a lot of leads themselves. So like that's been their Achilles heel. Zach Gallen hasn't been himself really either. He's had some flashes, but there's some room for improvement there. The Padres offense, besides a couple games against the Rockies this month, has kind of like been non-existent. and their bullpen has shown some cracks as well, though overall they've obviously done a pretty dang good job. The Giants, to me, are an interesting team, man. Like, I think they're well-rounded, but again, to me, like, the starting pitching is interesting. We've seen Robbie Ray, we've seen Logan Webb do really well, but then after that, they just transitioned Hayden Birdsong into the rotation, so there's some question marks of what they're going to do there. And then the Dodgers are dealing, I think 14 pitchers are on the injured list right now, so they have their problems. They've had a bunch of come-from-behind victories. I don't even know what that really says about them. What does that mean? Does that mean they should be playing better, or they should be much worse for all these come-from-behind victories? So each of these teams right now has their flaws. I don't think there's going to be a ton of separation. I thought maybe the Dodgers would run away with it, but with these injuries mounting up, like, I think they're going to play the long game here and just try to get everybody healthy. So I think all 4 teams will be now. If you're saying within 4 games in the last 2 weeks of September, like, that's kind of the question, I think. It doesn't seem to me like that's going to be the case. Like, if I'm really just thinking about baseball and how it works, I would say maybe I would say 3 would be my guess, would be in there, and 1 would fall off, and maybe there's some trade action going down and they fall off. But yeah, I'll say 3.
I really hope it's 4. I've been most pleasantly surprised by the Giants. I think perhaps maybe even in all of baseball. I think they have been the one team, because we even mentioned it at the beginning of the year that, yeah, they could be a good, solid team and finish a distant 4th in this division. Now, could it still happen? Yes, absolutely. But I think that they have done a really, really nice job out of the gate past the quarter mark, and they have surprised me the most.
You know what they've done well?
What's that?
You know what they've done well?
Huh.
Not relinquish the lead when they get one, man. Their bullpen's been phenomenal.
Yeah, their bullpen has been great. And they added Harrison to the bullpen, which I think is kind of an interesting move for a young guy that has been a starter his whole career. We'll see how that works out. Hicks has now gone back to the bullpen instead of being the starter, and Birdsong is back in the rotation. So they've had a lot of guys that are moving parts kind of on the fly, and they've done a remarkable job there. I agree with the one thing you said. I think it's going to be fascinating what each of the architects of these teams do, right? What's Andrew Friedman going to do? What's Buster Posey going to do? We know Preller's going to make several moves. We just don't know what they're going to be. And then Mike Hazen, who knows what he's going to end up doing. So these are guys who all have, with the exception of Posey in his respective chair, experience at the trade deadline. What sort of moves do we have to make in order to get ourselves in the right position? And Posey is a guy that is a winner and wants to step on the accelerator. And I'll be fascinated to see how each of these teams try to improve come July.
The Giants, to me, if you look at their offense overall, 17th in OPS, 22nd average, they are 10th in runs, which is nice. Sometimes that can get skewed by a few games. But I guess, like, where do you go for the Giants? Is that where you try to upgrade first base?
That's what it is. Late night Lamont, unfortunately, has not had a good year.
But, like, he's got a track record. Do you let him play it out, or you just go try to fix it? I'm curious what they do. Again, I think rotation-wise, they could probably use some help, but I don't know how easy it's going to be to add there.
I think they look inward for rotation help. I think they've got enough guys, like I said, that are pitching in the bullpen, that have pitched in the rotation.
18th in ERA, 22nd in WHIP for the starting pitchers.
I get it. I understand, but Logan Webb's been phenomenal. Robbie Ray has been great.
Yep.
Verlander, I think, has actually pitched better than his numbers indicate, although he's dealing with something right now.
But that's 3 starters.
I know.
I guess they've done it before.
They have.
That's kind of been their calling card the last couple of years. So,
Let us know. Do you think that all 4 teams can hang in this division race all the way through? Leave a comment for us. Get it going. Today's episode, Baseball Today, it is brought to you by Ridge Wallet. Look, we've all been there hauling around a wallet that feels more like a cinder block than an accessory. It is bulky. It is awkward. It's not doing your lower back any favors, particularly when you sit on that thing. You sit crooked, that ain't the way to go. Take it from a guy who's got back problems. And that's where Ridge Wallet comes in. Ridge Wallets, they're ultra slim. They're effortlessly sleek. I know it's easier for you to say than for me. And they're surprisingly spacious. It holds up to 12 cards plus cash if you're still into that, all without turning your pockets into a lumpy mess. It slips right into your front pocket, practically disappears. With over 50 colors and styles, Ridge Wallet isn't just functional, it's personal. So whether you want sleek black forged carbon fiber, a wallet that features your favorite NFL team, or one that just matches your vibe, they've got you covered. And right now, Ridge is having their huge Memorial Day sale. Listen to this. You're going to get up to 40% off at ridge.com/baseball today. Once again, head on over to ridge.com/baseball today to see their biggest sale of the year. After you purchase, please support our show. Tell them that we sent you. You'll be happy that we did. All right, move on. Oh, your guy, Carl Schwarber. Oh, he continues to do it. Upon further review, I guess he is a top 20 hitter in baseball. I went back and looked
people
at
are mad
it.
at you for that.
I know. I tried to come up with a list of 20 guys that were definitely better. I think I got to like 17. So I take it back. I think he is a top 20 hitter. Anyway, he was back at it.
Home, you were just sitting around the table. Man, let me make this list up.
Yeah, well, I did. Well, I did it while I was watching games. I do. I like going back. And sometimes if you feel like you're off, I don't think people have to have all the venom. You fucking asshole. You think he's hey, listen, I just said it. I wasn't like I hate Kyle Schwarber. I said I did say top 20 most feared hitter. I agreed with that. And then I went back and I said, okay, if we're dealing with everything, why not?
We talk baseball
right there
every day, Chris. We're gonna get some things wrong from time to time.
That's true. By the way, this isn't a proven fact wrong. This is an opinion. So it might not be wrong. I'll wave my flag and say I'm good. Anyway, the whole point is he was blasting off at Coors Field yet again.
That one's hit well out to center field. Doyle's going back to the wall. Does he have room? He does not. He's done it again. Center field home run for Kyle Schwarber.
I will say this. Even his wall scrapers are majestic.
Dude, he's got just a phenomenal swing. They have that new thing up on Baseball Savant that shows like the tilt and the swing angle. Like his swing is beautiful. It's so compact, and the lane that his bat gets in is just perfect.
All right, so what was the biggest deal to come out of Denver last night? That the Phillies became the first National League team to win 30 games. Dodgers later equaled them in the night. Jesus Luzardo struck out 10 and lowered his ERA sub 2. Or the Rockies lost their major league worst 40th game and are on pace for 135 Ls.
I don't really feel like talking about the Rockies and what they're doing. I'll talk about the Phillies getting to 30 wins. They were kind of, just playing okay ball the first, month of the season. I believe they were 17-13 at the end of April. So that's okay. We expect a little bit more out of the Phillies. And then so far in May, 13-5. And their pitching has really locked it down. They've allowed more than 5 runs 4 times so far in May, and that's 21 games or 19 games, whatever the heck it is. And then the offense has just really come alive as well. So they're playing great on both sides of the ball right now. It's them and the Cardinals, I believe, are both 13-5, and then the Twins are 13-3. So those are the 3 biggest movers in May. This is more of the team I think that we expect. Now, obviously, the Jose Alvarado news isn't great, and we'll have to figure some things out with that, but they have all the pieces to get it done. Yes, they need to go get some bullpen help, but they've been playing, A-plus baseball in the month of May.
And one reason is the guy who started the game last night, Jesus Luzardo. I think it was one of those trades that we didn't pay a ton of attention to when it happened in the offseason. He was dealt for a couple of prospects, including one guy who I believe was in the top 100 at the time. Unbeaten in a Phillies uniform in his 10 starts, leads the National League pitchers in WAR. He's 5th in the NL in strikeouts. And he's had such a fascinating career, right? You remember he starred as a 22-year-old for the then Oakland A's in that wild card game against the Tampa Bay Rays. It was one that they lost, but he came out of the bullpen and he threw 3 dominant innings of 1-hit ball. He struck out 4, and we were like, holy shit, like this, he's the next big thing. And then he kind of stumbled around. Remember that injury he had when he got pissed off playing video games?
Oh, yeah.
And he slammed his hand and he broke his pinky. And we're like, oh, no, you're one of those. Like you're a Joel Zamaya who injures himself playing Guitar Hero and ends up on the injured list. He gets traded eventually to Miami. I think that was the Starling Marte deal. And he just kind of wallows around. Then he becomes he put together an all-star-ish season in 2023. Then last year, injuries and took a huge step back. And it's just been a lot of this throughout his career. And then he gets traded to Philadelphia, which, if you go to Philly as a free agent, it's one thing. If you get traded there, there's not nearly the pressure. It's not like they gave him big money to get there. They didn't give up the biggest prospects they've got. So whatever they got out of Jesus Luzardo, I think was going to be gravy. And he's been more than that. We're going to see him in Atlanta at the All-Star game.
Yeah, they're going to have some interesting decisions, moving forward with what they're going to do with their rotation. Hopefully Nola, the ankle gets fixed, maybe a little mechanic stuff gets fixed. But Luzardo, since the start of 2022, so that's 72 games started. His last 72 games, Chris, got a 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
So he's, he is that guy. And he's got to be a free agent. Okay, one more year of ARB next year, and then free agent 2027.
Yep.
Okay.
After next year.
God, it seems like he's been around the game way longer than that, hasn't it?
I know, because he came up when he was 21, I think, and we were like, "Whoa, this is a real deal." And then he started. It's been 6 years since he starred in that wild card game.
So I guess it makes sense. Like 2020 was his first full season. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's crazy. I don't know why. Like maybe I'm lumping him and Gio Gonzalez together or something like that.
I like that.
Yeah, just a couple guys from Florida,
Yeah, left-handers from Florida who bounced around. And
hey, and people give Harvard Westlake all the credit all the time for producing all these big leaguers, but that the Stoneman Douglas High School,
yeah,
he went there as well. How many? Let's get it up real quick, just for fun.
Anthony Rizzo went there.
I know Anthony Rizzo. There's more than that too. Who else is it? Kobe Mayo. That's who it was, and Roman Anthony, who will be up soon, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Matt Fox, former teammate of mine.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Braves, they were pumped up for the return of Spencer Strider, activated off the injured list with the hamstring injury. He was making just his second start of the year. But he gave up a few in the first, and then Washington's Crew took over from there. Or should I say Cruz?
Oh! As he crushes one to deep left. Alex Verdugo can only watch it. This one halfway up the bleachers. And Dylan Cruz homers in back-to-back ball games. Now 7 on the year.
All right, so that was the good news for Dylan Cruz. The bad news is he had to leave the game later. Kind of a check swing. Hurt. It looks like an oblique, and you know how nasty those things can get. So what was the bigger story? That Strider, even in the loss, appears healthy, or the Cruz, who's still trying to get his footing at the major league level, might have to ride the pine a little bit with an injury?
I think the bigger story is for the Braves and Strider. They want to have their full slate of players going for them, and it seems like they're going to have that soon with Acuna back. So I think that is where I'm focusing here. Dylan Cruz, he has all the skill set, he has the intangibles, all these things. That you're right. I mean, I believe this year and last year just kind of mirrored himself. He hits right around 200. The slug isn't necessarily there, but you can see that there is more there, and it does suck. Obliques are not fun. They are worrisome because once you do it, it takes a long time to heal, and he might be more susceptible to them to do that again throughout the season. I always say that, but this one for me is Strider. I want to see this Braves team go, and we know that there's a lot of really good baseball teams in the NL, and only 6 get to make it. Spencer Strider being healthy for them is, if they're going to make the postseason after starting out 0-7, he has to be in the rotation for the rest of the year.
I thought he had as illuminating a post-game interview as I've seen all year. Did you read any of the quotes that he had?
I didn't.
Okay. He said, listen, it's not good enough for me to be out there. I think a lot of people are happy about that. He goes, no, I'm not happy. He goes, I replaced somebody in the starting rotation who was doing a damn good job in Bryce Elder. He said, and that's not lost on me. I can't just show up and go to work. I have to be who I am. I cannot let this team down. It was really, really
love that.
Fascinating stuff. Yeah, of course. That's what you want out of one of your dudes. So I loved that part of the whole thing. He didn't look like Spencer Strider last night. The Nationals really teed off on him in the first inning. They were barreling him up, and he just didn't look like his usual self. And who knows? I mean, remember, he what, he pitched 2 or 3 starts last year before he went out for the year with arm surgery, so he's really just getting back into it.
That's the thing though. You have to give him some time. So yes, like I
Totally.
like that he says that. That shows actually to me shows a ton of confidence when you're able to sit up there and say I'm not good enough and I need to be better. And this guy was, like that to me. That's what you want to hear. Like I said, but you have to give these guys some time to get like the feel down. When you talk to pitchers that have come back from arm injuries, that's the one thing they say. You feel healthy, you feel like you can rip the ball, but the feel just isn't there. I was talking to Randy Wolf about that at the Dodger game because he had a couple surgeries. And he's like, the ball just, it doesn't feel the same in your hands, and you got to get back to it because it's such a small thing. Manipulating the ball with the ends of your fingertips and how it feels coming out. Like it just all matters so much. And give him some time, he'll get it back. And I guarantee we see, we might not see 2.67 Spencer Strider. But we're gonna get a much better version of him at the end of the year.
Yeah, real quickly, I'm wearing a Nats cap because I do want to talk about Cruz. We have such high expectations for him because he was the guy taken right after Skeens and was such a star at LSU. He's had fewer than 300 big league at bats. So there's still, but he's never hit that run where over a 3-week span yet where we've been like, oh man, this guy's going to be a stud. There's been like a 1-week moment here or there where we're like, stud. But here's the reason I think there's a lot of pressure on him. He was the start of a run of 4 straight outfielders taken in that 23 draft. So he went second. Max Clark went next to the Tigers. I mean, we're just waiting for him to get up.
Hold on. You don't know that.
I know, but people are super excited about him.
Sure. And
Wyatt
we're
Langford.
excited about Dylan Cruz too.
Wyatt Langford for the Rangers. Walker Jenkins, who I know that your Twins are very excited. And then the 6th pick, the guy who stopped the run of 4 straight outfielders, was Jacob Wilson, who's obviously doing his thing with the Athletics. So you're always going to be measured by the guys who were taken right after you. And, Washington, they've got 3 guys that they got via trade in Mackenzie Gore and CJ Abrams and James Wood, who are going to be the tent poles of this team moving forward. They need the guy who was taken 2nd overall to make that leap as well. And if you're down for who knows, however long this may be, hopefully it's just a couple days, but we know that obliques can be a couple of months as well. So I just hope that part of his development doesn't get derailed. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, no,
Okay.
I get what you're saying.
Okay. Little too early probably for big names to start moving via trade. It's fun to start talking about them. And one of the big ones on the South side is obviously Luis Robert. Who's going to go get him? Well, he met with the media before the game yesterday, win against the Seattle Mariners. And he told the White Sox media, quote, right now as my season is going, I don't think anybody is going to take a chance on me. Did you feel sad when you heard that?
Not really. I mean, he's just kind of telling the truth there. I think teams still would take a chance on him. I think he's one of those prime change of scenery candidates. He's got 17 swipes. Like, I think, offensively, he hasn't got the job done. But again, like, how motivated can you be coming to the park on a team like that? So I do think it's not just that easy, like flip a switch, go to the new team, but the motivation factor does play a huge part in baseball. Like, wanting to play for something, not just personal stats, is a driver for a lot of people. So I don't know if it is for him. I don't know him personally like that, but I do think he is a change of scenery candidate. But no, I don't feel sorry for him. I don't.
It just sounded sad. Like
Yeah,
the
okay.
way it read, I didn't hear it through his interpreter, but it just sounded sad. Like it was almost like, man, I suck. And nobody's going to take a chance on me. And to be honest with you, yeah, it's a pretty good self-assessment. Do you know that there's only been one day all year where his OPS has been above 700, and that was after opening day? And right now it's sub 600. He has only got, I wrote it down here. He's running well. He's got 17 steals. His walk rate is the highest of his career. His chase rate is the lowest, so those are great. He's got 9 extra base hits. And usually the question with Luis Robert is, can he stay on the field? Well, he's been on the field this year. He's just not produced 9 extra base hits. What are we doing?
He's still only 27 years old. The bat speed is there. I think,
Right.
man, you let this guy go somewhere else, another voice in his ear, can unlock him where we can see, what we expected out of Luis Robert Jr. I'm curious to see where he goes or if he goes.
So here's the biggest nightmare for the White Sox. I mean, they were rooting for him to get off to a hot start so that people would be, bidding against each other in order to get his services. The biggest nightmare for the White Sox is he doesn't get any better than this. He's untradeable. At the end of the year, the team doesn't pick up his team options. Instead, gives him $4 million to walk away. He signs a free agent deal, a 1-year, $14 million deal with somebody, and he turns back into Luis Robert. And all of a sudden, the White Sox are sitting there going, you couldn't have done this while we still could have traded you?
Or they could look in the mirror and say, wow, we maybe failed this guy developmentally.
There's
there's a couple ways to look at it.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Last
he's
thing
got to take a
before we
lot
get out
of
of here.
blame as well. You can't just say it's the organization. Like, you got to go out there and get it done. You got to motivate yourself. Got to do all these things. But it does become easier if you're in a better organization.
You know what? I want to hear from fans of a contending team that needs an outfielder, because there's always a few of those. Would you take your chance on Luis Robert? Because you could just cut him loose at the end of the year, give him $4 million to walk away. If he turns it on, you pick up his option for $20 million next year. And then you still have a guy in his late 20s who has shown flashes of it. So would you, obviously it's dependent on what you would give up. I understand that. But would you run the risk? You know roughly what you would have to give up at this point, most likely. So
I know the obvious teams like the Phillies, but who else really, really could use him?
The Atlanta Braves need a left fielder.
Atlanta Braves. That's a good one. Okay. San Francisco Giants.
I mean, the Guardians need outfielders.
They've always needed outfielders, Chris. They like not having outfielders, okay?
It's true.
You don't go there.
All right. Last thing we got. Did you see the cotton candy girl that we put out on our social media at Pittsburgh? Okay, watch. She's got double barrel in her hands, the blue cotton candy, and she's eating it at the same time. She puts one of it in the cup holder, and then she takes it out of the cup holder and eats it. If that's one of your kids, do you go ballistic?
At myself. What? She's just a kid. She's just doing what kids do. They mess around. You got to be, I'm not trying to slam on her parents here, but that's your fault. That's a parent's fault, not a kid's fault.
Yes, it is. Poor parenting. Wouldn't you be grossed out if your kid ate cotton candy out of the cup holder?
Disgusting, Chris. Yesterday, I actually came outside. Teddy had a play date, and Isla as well. Isla had left some of her slime making stuff outside in our backyard, and Teddy and his buddy were messing with it and just made an absolute a disaster. Glue everywhere. I had to get the power washer out, Chris. But I was I left them unattended. They were just outside. It's kind of on me. They're kids.
Well, but I mean, you're supposed to give kids their space to do something.
I did. I let him know that he shouldn't have been doing that. And once it got messy, he should have came and talked to me. But also, you got. I'm a parent. They're kids.
Okay.
That's how I view parenting, at least.
Is this a controversial take that cotton candy is severely overrated?
Ooh, no. I don't put that stuff in my body. I love cotton candy. I haven't eaten it in a long time, but the texture and all that is just so fun. It's unlike anything else. How it melts in your mouth. I'm all about cotton candy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh God. I guess I don't
fun.
like it.
Whimsical, Chris.
So stuck on your hands. The only thing I love that gets stuck on my hands are Cheetos.
Oh.
What?
I was thinking about you licking Cheetos off your fingers, and I got.
Oh my God! I might do that. Yeah. I might do it for a show later this week.
Well, you're supposed to do to end the show, Chris. I asked you a favor.
What's that? What?
Turn that hat around. Sign off as our guy.
Yeah, but our audience doesn't get the Fred Durst.
Yes, they do, dude.
Yeah. There you go. We're back at it again on Thursday. We cannot wait for our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke, our awesome intern, Sawyer. That is the uber-talented Trevor Plouffe. I am Fred Durst. We will see you Thursday here on Baseball Today.